Hello, everyone, and welcome to the recap, I guess is the best word for it, video about my experiences running the TBL tournament. So this was, for anyone who isn't initiated somehow, a tournament that I ran where I was trying to do something a little bit more, what's the word, explosive than usual in the draft league community. I have been running leagues for 5 years now, and they've exclusively been Twitch-centric leagues. Now, some coaches have uploaded to YouTube. I've uploaded some of my battles to YouTube from this league, but I actually don't upload all of my battles to YouTube, and I don't expect to start doing that in the future either. This is a league that I run specifically to be focused on Twitch. And what that means, it comes with a couple caveats. The first one, if you want to run a league on Twitch, I would recommend if you're ever doing that, getting commentators, because it's a perfect platform for it. Live stream commentary is amazing. It is just absolutely different than running anything that you could run when having the person commentate their own battles. Now, that isn't necessarily to say that it's a bad idea to have some instances where coaches commentate their own battles. I think some of the most fun experiences we've had were when people forgot to mute their microphone and we could actually hear them commentating their own battle while the commentators were also commentating, and trying to figure out a solution to do that where you could potentially have the commentators listening in on a person's actual thoughts would be another step that I'm not even ready to take yet, but would be an interesting thing to think about moving forward. But that's not really what we're here for. First thing we're going to talk about today is going to be the commentary and what that's like and running a league like this. The second thing that we're going to talk about is the planning and the amount of work that goes into making a league like this happen. And it wasn't even a league, it was literally 2 weeks, but we'll talk about that too, the scheduling. So we'll talk about commentary, planning, scheduling. And the last thing we're going to talk about for something like this is what I would change moving forward. And then I'm going to address any questions that I've seen people have online, because I've posted this in a couple places that I'm going to make this video. And hopefully, just for anyone who wants to see it, those questions will get answered. So that'll be at the end of the video. But we're first thing going to talk about is the commentary aspect of this, because that's the big change that I made to the draft league scene in this particular tournament, was the commentary. There's no coach throughout the entirety of this league who said a word during their battle that a single viewer could hear. And if you want to not believe that there's a market for that, I think you're totally wrong. The COG experiment and the TBL were running simultaneously, sort of incidentally. I don't think that was in any way planned, but one was a YouTube-centric commentated experience, and one was a Twitch-centric commentated experience. And so here we're going to focus on the Twitch-centric one. If Addison wants to post about her experience running the other one, by all means. But for this particular video, we're going to talk about the Twitch-centric one, because that's the one that I ran. And I think the live aspect, the aspect of doing it, reacting as things are happening, and then getting a coach in to actually talk about their immediate reaction to the battle, is something that hasn't been super explored. There's been a lot of videos. The GBA used to do them, and a lot of other leagues that I know used to do them. And I don't think there's common anymore, where you'd watch some analyst would watch every battle, right? And then talk about the battles afterwards. But you wouldn't get the coach experience. Their first reactions would all be uploaded in their own video when they were commentating and battling simultaneously. But here we get a chance to actually not hear their own thoughts as they're battling, and only get the answers to their questions that the commentators think to ask them. And there's a lot that gets left under the rug, and I think a lot that gets left to sort of a different experience, because if you have the coaches, every single word of the coach's experience, as you're watching the video, you are going to be shaped in many ways by what the coach says about their thinking. And a lot of those things I think are really interesting, right? There was a situation that I had where I led with a Steelix in my first match, and everyone said, Steelix is super important to this matchup, don't lead with Steelix. Now, my intent wasn't necessarily to leave Steelix in, and I did switch it out on the very first turn of the game. But I thought, depending on what my opponent leads here, Steelix is the easiest thing for me to switch out into answers to all the things that answer Steelix. But I don't really want to switch Steelix in, because that doesn't necessarily take it super well, and I'd rather not have to switch it in. So it's in against the things that it answers, and if it's something that Steelix doesn't answer, then I switch it out. Now, it's a little bit confusing. If you're staring at me while I'm explaining that and while I'm, doing my own commentary, you get all of that information right away. And you actually might look at it and say, wow, that was actually a pretty smart, well thought out decision. The commentators, for instance, in this battle, immediately said, that this was a really weird decision. They didn't know if they agreed with it. It was odd. It was off. There was something like, why would I make that lead given that Steelix is such an important mon in the matchup? And when I got asked at the end of the game, I was able to explain my thoughts. But I think the idea of a viewer base getting a chance to experience something with the commentary team for the first time is new to the draft league scene and was done in both the TBL and the COG experiment. It hasn't been done, in old leagues like the GBA and stuff, where the coaches would commentate their own battles, maybe post-com. Same idea though. Coach would commentate their battles, explain all their thoughts, and then you'd watch their thoughts and get a chance to actually hear everything they have to say about it. And personally for me, I think people who are watching a battle will not have the same thoughts as people doing the battle. And I think the viewers getting a chance to experience a battle with the commentators is a very different experience than the viewer trying to experience a battle with the battler and then the commentator trying to break down whether or not they believed what the battler did was right or wrong or good or helpful or whatever. So that's the first thing to me here is I think there's a huge opening for a commentary team to be watching a battle for the first time and commentating over it without having any experience knowing what's going on in the coach's head. And if you don't agree with just me, then perhaps you'll agree with the fact that we were able to pull upwards of 40 viewers concurrently and over 150 viewers over the course of a stream to various streams throughout this event. So this was a huge success, in my opinion. This was something that went incredibly well. It was incredibly daunting to do, but I will not deny and say in any way or try to beat around the bush. I think this was a proof of concept and it worked. I think it proved a concept. The problem, so that's all the good stuff, right? I think commentary teams are great. I think it proved a concept. I think live streaming battles is great. The problem is that scheduling this was a nightmare. This was 2 weekends, which had to be rescheduled twice because of various people's problems and situations in real life. Once rescheduled before the event started, before anyone knew about it. So you guys didn't even see that. But this event was actually supposed to take place in early February. And then again, the finals battle couldn't take place on the day the finals battle was originally scheduled, and we had to drop it back by a week. So here's the situation. I got 16 coaches. That's normal for a league. 16 coaches is totally doable. Everyone scheduled that. But not everyone tells every one of those coaches they need to be available on specific days at specific times. So what I had everyone do, just a little bit of background information. I literally had everyone send me their availability on those days with it was like a Google form. And you literally filled it out. You checked off every single half-hour section you were free from 7:30 in the morning till midnight on the day of. So let's just say it was Saturday. On Saturday, you send me your availability from 7:30 in the morning till midnight. And Eastern time is what I had listed in, but you do it in your own time zone. And then I went through personally and looked at the two. The other thing you could do is tell me I would love if it was between 1 and 4 o'clock, but if it's not, or I'm free until 8 p.m., but I want it to, I want to be done by 6 if I can. So I tried to accommodate for all of those to the best of my ability. And there were time zone problems. Some people were in Europe and they would go into bed at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Some people were working. They were in the, central U.S. Central time zone, and that's a 6-hour time difference, and they were working until 4 p.m. And so there were definitely issues that could arise given the struggles with time zones. Now, we got really, really lucky that those weren't as much of a problem as I was worried about. But I literally sat down for probably an hour and a half for the first day, for the Saturday, when I had 8 battles going on. Because not only did I have 16 battlers, I also had commentary teams that I needed to coordinate with those battlers. And I limited it to one commentary team was doing about 2 or 3 battles. So I only needed 3 commentary teams for the entire day. That was an additional 6 people, but it was manageable. If you tried to get a different commentary team for every single battle for that day, it would have been a nightmare. Absolute, just everything goes crazy. But 3 commentary teams, additional 6 people. Well, now we're looking at 22 people that I need to schedule for one day, all by myself. And I'm running the league, and we're running the draft, and I'm participating, so I'm building, and I have to get all this information out early enough, not just so that the battlers know, because they didn't know when they were battling. They just knew when they had told me they were free. But then to follow that up, to tell the viewership, right? I had to go post it on Twitter. I had to post it in Discords. I had to get everything out so that people knew when the battles were happening. And because I wanted to get one commentary team on, I wanted to make battles back to back. And there were certain people who were only free at a very specific time. So it ended up being like probably an hour and a half to just get the battles sorted, then another hour and a half to choose which commentators were doing which battles, then another hour and a half to make all the graphics and everything, then another 10 minutes to go send it out to the Discord and tell everyone, this is when you're battling, give me information if that's not available for you anymore, and then another 15 minutes to go send it out to all the Discords and everything. So after about 7 hours of work, I'm sitting there and I've got Saturday scheduled. And that was 3 weeks in advance. That was great. Saturday was, it was a lot of work, but I had plenty of time to come up with the graphics and figure out all the things. And so that was fine. The problem was we weren't going to know what the Sunday matchups were until Saturday ended. And Saturday didn't end until 10:30 at night Eastern time. And then I needed to schedule not just the battlers for Sunday, like the next day, but also the commentators. Now you could say, and I think it would be for future events doable to say we're going to only do these once a week. So it would be like every Saturday. But I can't ask someone to make their Saturday free every week for like a month. I can maybe ask them to have 2 weekends free back to back, right? That was my thinking. It's like, if I want to do this once a week, they need to have that day free every week for like a long time, right? This was 4 rounds. It was single elimination, 16 people, down to 8, down to 4, down to 2, winner. So it's 4 rounds long. So if I wanted you to do Saturdays every week, then that would be a month worth of Saturdays. And that's a lot of days. That's a lot of time. And I couldn't just ask someone to be like, never make plans on a Saturday. So I figured maybe I could say like, don't make plans for these 2 weekends, or make flexible plans for these 2 weekends, and we can manage. And that's going to be a little bit easier than trying to say like, you can just like blanket, this Pokemon League is going to like be impossible to schedule or know what you're doing until a week before. And it was just hard, right? And the other thing was, I was still trying to do this on LAN for the first time. I hadn't really thought through all the logistical nightmares of that. And I'll get to that in the next section, I guess. But the big point here is that this was a ton of work for me. From December until the completion of it, I would argue that I had at least a part-time and at times a full-time job working on exclusively scheduling for this league. Trying to get everything coordinated and organized and put into a place where it was easy for other people to understand and follow, and get everyone in place, give everyone that needed it the stream key for the TBL, get all the graphics to everyone who needed it, tell them the format for the graphics so that everyone was consistent with what they were doing, make it accessible for someone using XSplit versus OBS, make it something that people knew who was battling during their time slot, make it such that everyone knew what to look for on day of, so that the battlers knew like, this is what we're doing. Oh, and mind you, I had to get everyone connected to the LAN server every day. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if you were doing it on Showdown, but it is a problem doing it on Wi-Fi with live commentary with the spectator mode. Spectator mode was a great feature, and I want to use it in the future. I loved it. It was so pretty. It gave so much like information to the commentators. It just looked good on the screen. Loved it. Would totally use spectator mode again. The problem with spectator mode is that it's LAN exclusive, and you all need to be connected to the same event and on the same LAN network. And the biggest issue that meant was players, especially, would do the normal thing they were expected to do, but they needed to take a couple extra steps to make sure that their spectators were in the game before they started their match. And the spectators can't see whether or not you're in the match. So if you want more information about how spectator mode works and what you're looking for, I made a video on that describing how to get into spectator mode. So go watch that. I'm not going to go too much into detail here, but I needed to make sure that right before the match, literally seconds before the match, while the commentators were commentating and doing their thing and live, they were also in communication with the players where the players would say like, we're good. We see the switch on the screen. And the commentator would say, okay, you're ready to go. Which meant everyone needed to buy in to like waiting, not just jumping into the battles. And they're like, you know, and part of it was like the commentators might still be in a conversation with the previous coaches from the previous battle because their time slot, you know, I gave everyone 45 minutes, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about that in the scheduling portion. But I gave everyone 45 minutes to do their battles, and sometimes you take less than 45 minutes to do your battle, and the commentators would bring in the battlers and would just talk to them, you know, kill the time, talk to them, because the next battle wasn't scheduled to start until 45 minutes later. The other coaches knew that, but I asked you to get started and set up as early as possible. So, you know, there was that trade-off between those two. Those two things, like, do I get started early or am I waiting for the commentators? And you just have to sit there and wait sometimes. And there was some downtime on the back end that a lot of people don't see from the viewer perspective, because there's stuff happening on the screen, right? Like the commentators are talking to the battlers of the previous battle. So you don't notice that for 10, 15 minutes, the other battlers have been sitting there saying like, can we start yet? Can we start yet? Can we start yet? And I'm not saying this is not a call out to any specific person saying like you were annoying about this. Like, I think the coaches handled it incredibly well, but it's still something you have to think about if you're ever going to do a league like this. Is the battlers need to know not to start until the commentators are ready for them. And the commentators need to be knowing to communicate when you're ready so that everything goes smoothly and there's a very quick transition between things. And I think that was the big part of this that really got me, was that the commentators did an amazing job of communicating, and the players did an amazing job of patience and waiting and being ready to go. But the caveat to that is that despite the amazing jobs that everyone did, it was still incredibly stressful and sometimes strenuous on both me and the players and commentators involved, because they're checking like 6 things at once. And I respect that that's not ideal, but I don't know in any way how you would fix that. I legitimately don't think there is a solution. Even in like VGC events, it seems like it's similar. And if you can't just get started against your opponent like right away, if you need to wait for something else, you need to wait for something else. And that's just there's just no way to fix that. But it was still kind of just, it was a lot to bring in all at once. To me, this event, planning this event, running this event, was super rewarding. It was super fun. Definitely worthwhile. What I worry about sometimes is that a lot of people were also frustrated, and I did get some feedback on this, and I'll talk about it later. You got one battle. I planned this for 3 months. I messaged you in December if you were invited to this league. I messaged you in December. I'm calling it a league. It's a tournament. I'll just use them interchangeably. Please don't get confused. I messaged a lot of people in December to join this. We drafted in February. You got one battle in like the middle of March, 3 or 4 weeks after you drafted. And then you were done. And I felt bad. I knew single elimination was going to do that. Half the field gets eliminated on day 1. Sucks that you spend all that time prepping for it, all that time like doing all the steps, following all the instructions, being really helpful and supportive to me as a person running the league, and then immediately get sent home and told you are no longer invited to continue in this journey. 100% respect and appreciate that opinion, and I'll try to touch more on that later, but I just want everyone to know that I'm thinking about that, and like that is something I'm aware of as a problem for this. So for this portion of the video, I just want to talk about how, like, I keep making this caveat of how great everyone was during this event, because they were. I needed that. I needed every single person to buy into this plan because it was insane and a huge undertaking. And I am so grateful for the people that ended up signing up, all jumping on board for this event, like really committing to this event, both the players and the commentators. But to me, it was just such a difficult thing to do. And finding the time to do it wasn't easy. I want these events, if they do happen again in the future, to be successful. I have a groundwork laid out that I know that will work at least. But the problem is, if I run an event like this, I need 150% buy-in from players and commentators of these events. Both, you have to commit to making a good battle. I don't care. It doesn't matter if you don't care about the league. You need to commit to making a good battle happen. You cannot meme out. It doesn't look good. I mean, the third place game aside, like you're already in the third place game, that's fine. But if you are committed to playing in a competitive event, you need to do your best to play in a competitive event. And everyone has to buy into that. That has to be a blanket thing. The second thing that you need for this is you need players to be honest about things. You can't be late. And if you are late, you need to fess up to that. I think it's a huge endemic problem in the Draft League community. You need to tell me if this is not going to work for you as early as you possibly can. I don't think that's just related to Draft League, since my D&D group has the same problem, but you need to be honest, open, and communicative as early as you can that something's going to go wrong. And I just think that's a problem in general. This frustration is not based on this event. It's actually based exclusively on other experiences I've had, where you sit there and wait for an hour, 2 hours, and someone shows up and they're like, I'm ready to go. And you're like, I've got plans. I can't go anymore. And then they ask for a forfeit, like you're being unreasonable. Look, if you ever want to be included in a live streamed event, in a live event where somebody else is commentating your battles, if you even a little bit want to think that you could be in it someday, and you can, I want to run these where I just have applications and send it out and people can apply and join. I want to do that. But if you want to be that person, if you ever think that you're going to be that person, you better be goddamn like these 16 people who were here. 15 people who were here, and you hoodles. Because one person dropped the day before the event. But if you aren't, if you believe genuinely that you are good at scheduling, on top of things, available, and able to be communicative when things change, because I'm not asking you to not have anything come up. That's impossible. That would be incredibly unreasonable for anyone to say you can't have any problems arise. But as soon as you know about it, you better be telling both your opponent, the commissioner, and in this case, the commentary team, that things have changed and you need special accommodations. It's okay to need those accommodations, but I certainly can't know that you need those accommodations, and the time to tell me isn't an hour after you were supposed to show up. Again, everyone in this league did a perfect job with it, but I just want it to be out there. Like, this is something that I want to do again, and I don't want it to always be the same 16 people, although I wouldn't mind inviting all these people back because you all did an amazing job. But if you are invited to do this, make sure that you're never late for other things. And I am way too diligent to not vet people. So I will ask if I ever send out an application for this. Know this, if you're even thinking this would be fun to try, just know this. I will vet you. I will ask in the survey other leagues you have participated in. And I will message the commissioners of those leagues and ask, have you had any problems scheduling? If you were going to drop, did you communicate it well? Because I don't care if you dropped. I care if you don't tell me and don't show up on time. So, if you want to join this or a future season of the TBL, the regular TBL, those are very important. I'm a little bit more lenient on the regular season of the TBL than I would be for something like this, because something like this, there's 2 weekends. I ask you to be free for up to 4 total battles. That's it. It's like 2 hours of your time. And I think personally, we should be more on top of that as a community. And this was a perfect example of how many people can get together and make it work, which means there are tons of people out there who are willing to put in the time, the effort, to make sure they're communicating and on time and available. And if you're one of those people, if you are, and you know yourself, I don't know you, you know yourself, then great. That's perfect. That's ideal. You upload on time, you show up when you're supposed to show up, you have your team genned already. That's the other thing. Don't expect the time you schedule for your battle is the time you should be genning in your team. You should have it genned in already. Sort of unrelated, but it's true. You have your team genned in already, show up on time, you schedule in advance, you are communicative with the commissioner if there is a problem. Again, I have nothing against people dropping a league. things happen. Your health, your mental health, and the health of your loved ones, school, whatever, comes first. I have nothing against someone rescheduling a battle, even towards the last minute, as long as the reason for it is valid. Where I started with this was I actually wanted to commend every person in this league for how good they were at doing that. Like, every single person was on time. Every single person gave me what they needed to give me 150% the entire time. They told me their availability. They were actually available when they were scheduled. They showed up 20 minutes early for everything they needed to show up for. If they could, or if they couldn't, they communicate with me like, hey, I'm not going to be free until like exactly that time. So can we stall like 5 extra minutes? I'll be there, but I just need like a couple extra minutes. Like, everyone did everything they needed to do. This was unbelievable. And the reason this is so shocking to me is that's the first time that's ever happened, right? This shouldn't be the first time that's ever happened. I shouldn't be so excited that everyone did like the bare minimum of what they were expected to do, but they did, and it was awesome. And I want to do it again. Like, the reason I'm so excited to run an event like this again is because everyone did, like, it made it so much nicer. And so thank you to everybody who was involved. Commentators, admins, players, everybody who was actually involved in this that made this run so smoothly. Like, y'all are amazing. Y'all are the best. And I can't say it enough. And if any person ever wants to vet any person that was in this event, 100% vote of confidence. Yes, bring that person to your league. They will only be a boon to you. And I don't care if they weren't battling, just even the commentators. Obviously, many of these people are well known in the community, but I mean it. Like, every single person here did an unbelievable job. And there were some people who went above and beyond, and I do want to give special shout outs to them. I'm going to do that at the end of the video just so that it's like in one place, and I can keep it all straight. But there are some people that I do want to give special shout outs to who really went above and beyond for this event. So let's move on. The last thing I want to talk about before moving on to, answering questions from social media and giving those shout outs is what to expect next. What the TBL is going to look like moving forward. Because here's the thing. Spectator mode, game changer. I had a secret agenda. Not so secret. It was very public, but I was a secret agenda, which was, how does spectator mode look? Is LAN worth it for the TBL? The answer, and I think unequivocally, based on everything that I saw, is yes. The TBL, moving forward, will be transitioning into a LAN league, at least for one season. I don't know what's going to happen in Gen 9. But at least for the next season of the TBL, before Gen 9 is released, we will be transitioning into a LAN-based league. We are going to leave the 20-minute timer behind. And the one reason for that, well, there's two reasons, but the one reason for that that's most important is that the spectator mode is unbelievable and is exactly what I wanted. I used to use Peakalytics on the side of the screens. I used to have people send the sets to the commentators, but no. Spectator mode is so good for a live-based format, and I just... There's no two ways about it. It would set the TBL apart from other leagues, because other leagues that are on YouTube, even like the COG Experiment, can't use spectator mode in the same way, or they can, but it's a little bit more difficult to set it up, or awkward and stuff. So, yeah, 100%, we're switching to LAN exclusively for spectator mode, period. The other reason that I'm okay with switching to LAN, and why I said there were sort of two reasons, is because we did have a coach who picked up the team on the very last day before the league and had never used LAN before. You know him. You love him. His name's Yahoodles. And he has done a Wi-Fi league. He's done the TBL before, but the TBL was not a LAN league. We were 20-minute. So he has done Wi-Fi, but he's only done 20-minute Wi-Fi. He's done a lot of Showdown. Very, very talented coach. And we worked through it. Of course, this league did have, this tournament did have a number of people who were very well versed in setting up LAN. That was super helpful. But we walked him through it the day before the event. And he said it was way easier than he was expecting. It was very simple once he got it down, and resetting it up and everything was super easy. So there is that little bit of upfront cost to getting LAN set up. After that, it's super easy. So the TBL will be transitioning to a LAN league because I was not doing it for two reasons. But the main one was that I didn't want to make coaches who didn't want to set up LAN have to set up LAN because it was a pain. But now that it's become so streamlined and everyone knows they're doing so much and there's so many videos about it, I do think the TBL will be transitioning into a LAN league without too much of an issue. That does mean that the TBL's points system will become defunct. The next thing that I want to talk about is the next event coming up. So here's the situation. I need to finish my MBA. For those who don't know, I don't know how you do or don't know. Some people do, some people don't. I'm getting my MBA and I'm technically graduating. I'm technically walking in the graduation ceremony in May, but I have 2 more classes to finish after that, which will run all of July and August. Every weeknight, basically, for all of July and August. And I'll be moving during that. The New York Empoleon will be moving to New York for the first time in our history. We'll actually conduct a battle as the New York Empoleon in New York sometime later this year. The problem with that is that I'm so busy and it's just too much stuff. And there's just a lot going on. So here's the deal. The TBL main season will be delayed. There will not be usually there's a spring and a fall running of the TBL seasons. There will not be a spring season this year. I apologize for anyone that's frustrated by that. I know that that's not the easiest thing to hear. It's, not ideal for me to not be able to run it right after the TBL tournament. We got a lot of interest, but I cannot. I just realistically need to take that time. So instead, we're going to start planning much, much earlier for the TBL Summer League. Now, I don't always participate in TBL Summer Leagues, but here's the deal. TBL Summer Leagues are wild as hell. They are always insane. They are always absolutely bonkers and totally new and something that no one has seen before. If you want to participate in that, I will try to run a few extra slots. I usually run it at 16. That's probably going to be where it is. The TBL main seasons are usually 12, though it's still, to me, a few extra slots to run 16 people. But that'll be entirely application-based, as it always is. So it's not going to be invite or anything. Once the application's ready to come out, I'll send it out on Twitter and on the Discord. So make sure you join or follow on those. And then, so there won't be a main season in the spring. I'll do the Summer League a little earlier than usual. So it'll probably start in like late May or June and run through early August. And then basically, as soon as the Summer League's over, run one more main season before Gen 9 releases. Throughout August, September, and October. I might shorten the main season. I haven't decided yet. This was so nice. Honestly, I've seen shorter leagues be super successful. I might shorten the main season to be like 6 or 7 weeks instead of 10. Still have to come up with that exact situation. So that's all working. I'm still working all that out in my head. But just keep an eye out for like mid-May applications for the Summer League, which will run June, July, and then a little bit shorter. Summer Leagues are usually a little bit shorter as well. And then keep an eye out for the main season application form. And the way the main seasons work, for those who don't know, since you might be coming here from somewhere else, I run a preseason. It's 3 weeks on Showdown. The main season's always on Wi-Fi, but I run a preseason on Showdown just to make it a little bit easier. And what I'm looking for during those preseasons is that you schedule with your opponents, show up on time, you bring interesting creative sets that are still competitive, and that you are active in the server. And technically, yes, the results of the battle, like if you win or lose, does impact it, but it impacts it very, very minimally. And so if you lose all your battles, you can still absolutely make it into the main season. That's not the primary thing I'm looking for. A lot of people get confused by that. They're like, I won all my battles in the preseason. Why didn't I make it? And I'm like, because you brought stock standard sets that weren't interesting at all. You didn't ever talk in the server, and the other person always scheduled with you first. You never reached out to them once. That's not the kind of person I'm looking for. I'm sorry. Like, you can be the best battler in the world, but if you're not committed to making the server better, then I can't accept you. Like, that's just how it is. There are other people who are much more willing and committed to making the TBL as a league more fun for the community to watch, and ultimately it's content creation. That's what I'm trying to do. And if you ever watch my battles, if you haven't watched my battles, I don't know why you're still here on like half an hour into this video, but if you ever watch my battles, you'll know that I am not always bringing the best stock sets. They are always weird. They are always out there. And I want other people who are going to do that. That's what I want the TBL to be. I want it to be fun. I want it to be interesting for the commentators. I want the commentators not to know what's going to come next, right? Like, there's so many battles of mine in the past where I look back and I'm like, man, what would a commentator have said that wasn't me if I just popped Wonder Room Nihiligo and then 3-shot a Blissey, like 3K to Blissey with Sludge Bomb, right? Like, what are you going to say? I want to know, right? I don't want to know what a commentator will say by saying, like, it's a Nihiligo, Blissey's going to switch in, Nihiligo's going to have to switch out. It might set up T-Spikes or Stealth Rocks, but it has to switch out into your Blissey check. Like, I want to make Nihiligo my Blissey check. So come up with those answers. Come up with those solutions, and you'll make it into the TBL. It's that simple. But all that aside, I'm not going to run the main season. Look for that application in, like, August. July, August time, and I'll run one more season that will be end of August draft through September, October. So there's still 2 seasons of Sword and Shield left for the TBL, and then we will see what happens with Generation 9. I expect the TBL will probably transition, like most leagues, over to Gen 9, but if it ends up being like BDSP, where people are like, no, I really don't want to go over there, then we can stick it out on Sword and Shield for a little bit longer, since we finally have the LAN and this everything going for the TBL. Like, that's fine. So I'll make sure the community is up to date on that once the games are released, but there's nothing I can say about that right now. I answered some of the other questions. So David asked, were there any plans to run like an A and a B league, and when is season 8? So I answered the season 8 question. So have I ever wanted to run an A and a B league? That's an interesting question. The answer to that is no. I have never wanted to run an A and a B league. And the reason is that it's a nightmare. The thing about A and B leagues that I've seen is that other leagues that do them, either the B league is not upload required, or the like GBA D league and developmental leagues are sort of feeders into the GBA. I run the preseason sort of instead of trying to run a B league that would be a feeder into the main season. And I don't think I can realistically stream all the games for both leagues. I just can't be responsible for doing that, especially not in an overlapping time frame. And I don't think people want me to take away from the main league for a B league, like time for full seasons. So no, I don't think I'm ever going to be running a B league for the TBL. I've been asked that question a couple of times in my Pokemon career, and the answer has always been fairly consistent. So I don't expect it to change. It's not that I don't think B leagues are useful. It's not that I don't think B leagues are great for learning. It's just that I don't think I have the time to commit to running them correctly for other people, for the people who would need it. Because the B leagues need more attention, right? The players are looking to grow a lot more than somebody who's already made it to whatever the main league is in whatever league you're in. If you want to be in a B league, a lot of times you would prefer, especially a B league where it's like very visible like this, you'd prefer if the commentators were committed and interested in all the battles. And I just worry that that's not going to be the case. So not that I think players are bad or that I don't think player development is important. Just, I don't have the time to commit to it, and I don't have the time to make it as good as I want to make it in order for me to run it. So, unfortunately, the answer to is there going to be A and a B division in the TBL? There will not. There will always only be an A division. If you want to participate in the TBL in a more casual way, the Summer League is always an option. And I intend to run more of these events like this kind of tournament style in the future. Oh, I didn't touch on that. We're going to go back to that. Will there be another TBL tournament? Yes. When? Good question. Don't know yet. So the TBL tournament isn't going to be like super soon. I think it's going to be, right now the plan is take a month off or so, plan for Summer League, send out the applications for Summer League, do Summer League, send out the applications for main season, preseason, main season, then potentially look into another TBL tournament. Maybe like right before, maybe like during the main season, I'll come up with like the application for the tournament. and right before the release of Gen 9, we'll do the big tournament, like a couple weeks before, like last couple weeks of Sword and Shield. It's like a big send off. I'll do like an application. Anyone can sign up. Maybe I'll even make it a bigger tournament. Not everything gets streamed, but make it a bigger tournament so that there's more entrants. You tell me who won, and then when we get down to like top 16, the last 2 weekends. So maybe I'll try to do something like that, and we can go from there. And that'd be sort of the timeline. So expect nothing from the TBL for about a month, then the Summer League, then the main season, and then maybe one more TBL tournament before the end of Sword and Shield. The next question or thing that I got asked is running a losers bracket for players who get eliminated early. And what's funny is that when I started doing this, I was like, I know people are going to be frustrated. I know that it's like one game after months of planning, and then you only get to use your team for like one match, and it kind of sucks because like you had this cool team, you were super excited to use it, you like lose to hacks or something stupid, and you just like it's done. Running a losers bracket would be interesting. It's just a lot more scheduling and time intensive for me, but not necessarily a bad idea on the whole. I don't know if a tournament like this would work so well with a losers bracket without being like truly double elimination, and that's just, it doubles the number of games that you have to cast. Yeah, it's a possibility. Definitely something that I'm open to and coming up with solutions to work on. If anyone has ideas for how they'd make a losers bracket run, definitely open to ways to make that happen in a feasible. Remember that I'm one human being trying to run a lot of stuff, and don't just make it like just do it and it'll work, because you need to come up with plans for all of this stuff. The special shout outs at the end of this video that I just wanted to give before we end off here with this. I have no idea how long this video is, or what I'm cutting out or what staying in and stuff, but and how long it's gonna take me to edit this thing. God. The special shout outs. Shout out number 1 goes to Yahoodles. Hands down, Yahoodles did the most work for this league. He was supposed to just be an admin helping out. He was, I think, one of the first, if not the first person to know that I had this idea to run this, probably in like October of last year. It was one of the admin team, was helping me test a bunch of stuff, actually helped draft like almost every person who was coming from the TBL, like helped them create their drafts and draft their team, which all ended up, pretty much all of us won the first round of the tournament. So clearly solid drafts that were all very competitive. And then to follow all that up, jumped in a day before, having never done LAN before, and made it all the way to finals. So huge shout out to him for competing highly, and then also for his help in the background. Just could not have done this without you, Hoodles, and I really appreciate it. Another person that this could absolutely not have been done without is Addison, who, nobody knows this, but literally called me. I was freaking out. I was just like messaging her on Discord, and I was like, I can't. It was the night before, so it's Friday night before the first Saturday when there's 8 battles. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. This is insane. It's too much pressure. Everything's so stressful. And she literally just called me on Discord and was like, pick up. And I was like, okay. So I answered the call, and she was just like, calm down. You're gonna be fine. Everything's fine. And I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe that you actually took the time to like call me. We ended up talking for like 5 or 10 minutes, just like her calming me down. And then part of the problem with Saturday, part of the reason that I was freaking out so much was because I needed to be in class for the first entire session of battles. I didn't realize that I had a class from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. the first Saturday that I scheduled battles for, but that meant the entire first set of battles I was not available for. I couldn't help, I couldn't do anything with. And so I just was worried that things were going to be going poorly and things were going to be, I wasn't gonna be able to handle the problems. And so she literally took over the beginning of the tournament with no prior context and without me specifically asking her to do it. Literally just messaged every person on Discord 30 minutes before their match, made sure they were available, made sure they were ready, made sure they weren't clicking through buttons that they weren't supposed to be clicking, pinging the commentators saying like battlers are ready, pinging the battlers saying like make sure you're connected with each other, this is the LAN server. I was like watching her do this while I was in class on Discord, and it was just a weight off my shoulders. It was incredibly helpful. I absolutely could not have made it through that day without like a genuinely insane mental breakdown, without Addison stepping in and doing that, and she stuck with it and helped throughout the entire rest of the event. She was also one of the first people to know about the event, one of the first people that I messaged about it before I had even come up with people. She helped me come up with a list of people to reach out to, and then helped me just throughout the entire event, like from start to finish. Between Yahoodles and Addison, you know, I could have taken a step back and they would have absolutely taken over the reins as needed. Like whatever they needed to do, they were there for, and I could not. There's just so much appreciation for those two, like absolutely unbelievable amounts. I don't think either of you two understand like truly how much it meant to me and how much I needed that at that time. And those were our finalists. So congratulations to both of you for making it so far. Congratulations, of course, to Addison for actually winning the event. And I know that she was going out to visit Europe and was like, I'm going to use the money that I got to get a nice lunch. So hopefully got a nice lunch out of it too. So congratulations for picking up the win there, the actual tournament win, and for everything. Thank you so much for everything that you did on the back end. I also want to thank everybody who commentated. Jolt and Styx for coming out of retirement, coming out of the hiding to actually commentate a Gen 8 League or Gen 8 match, and to start off the tournament. Jolt, I don't think anyone really thinks about how much Jolt on the fly came up with things that we used throughout the entire event. Putting up the schedule sheet between matches so you knew who was coming up next. How long and what questions to ask the battlers who just came through. Jolt was the first one who had to do that in the event, and I did not give him a lot of instruction for that. So he came up with a bunch of that. His music choices, like how he ran the music, ended up being something we used consistently throughout the event. So Jolt, really appreciate just the smoothness that Jolt was able to walk in there with and to use. I think that really kicked off the event incredibly well. But everybody else who commentated as well, Jolt and Styx, obviously, thank you so much for your commentary. Bepsis commentated with me. Thank you so much for that. Daria and Addison, again, did an amazing job on day one, commentating those last couple battles. Sventhun picked it up on day 2. Playmaker and Chuckle King, Wolf for Wolf and Die and Root. Thank you all so much for all the commentary, all the help, everything. A tournament like this can't be run without the commentary team. I'm not going to go through and individually thank every player. They all know how thankful I am that they made this event such a success, and for playing their hearts out in every single battle. Really appreciate it. It made for some incredible battles and incredible finishes. So thank you to every coach. Thank you to Joe and CJ, who were my admin team in addition to Yahoodles. This was a village. You know, it's one of those things where it takes a village to. I mean, the saying is it takes a village to raise a child, but I'm going to call the TBL my child here and say it took a village, and every single person who was stepping in and helping out, I really, really appreciate it. So to everybody who was involved, thank you. This is something that I want to run again. It's something that I only would want to run again because it was so successful with everyone here. So y'all stepped in, made this happen. Proof of concept to, you know, older ideas of whether or not Draft League would work in a Twitch setting. It does. People will come. We just need to make sure that we market it correctly and get people involved. I think there are future places that this could go. I think there's more growth to be done for it, but as a proof of concept, it worked 100%, checked all the boxes. That's all I have for today. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I read all the comments and answer them all. So definitely just like send me something there. I'll get back to you and I can answer those questions there. Otherwise, I think that'll do it. Hopefully this video answers all of the questions you have about the TBL moving forward. I will, if you have any more though, you know, feel free to ask. So thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everybody.